노란 코트 위에 검은 눈동자 잊지 못하네 다정한 미소 지은
귀 작은다.
우산을 받쳐주네
준비됐나?
내리는 빗방울 바라보며 말없이 걸었네
What makes a great movie? Is it the story or is it its telling? Among the swarm of movies that we consume on a day to day basis, only a few movies can be distinguished as phenomenal. So, during this everlasting pandemic of possible movies, there are very few filmmakers who have somehow managed to master both the story and the telling aspects of the filmmaking. One such filmmaker is Bong Joon Ho. Bong is known for his ability to understand and blend various complex genres into one. It would be fair to say that he has created his own genre himself. Parasite is a great example of this. In Parasite, Bong seamlessly blends comedy, action, drama, and mystery together beautifully. Though Parasite is a masterpiece in itself, the movie that I want to talk about today is Bong's 2003 feature film and my personal favorite, Memories of Murder. Part of what makes a story great is a well developed plot. However, a plot means nothing without great characters to drive it forward. In Memories, Bong carefully crafts a well seasoned plot of murder mystery and presents it to our main characters. Memories follow a dual protagonist system. We have two detectives with contrasting ideologies who anticipate the next murders based on the pattern or the footprint left behind by the killer. On the surface, Detective Park is a careless, unskilled simpleton who associates certain environmental or behavioral qualities with being criminal. As soon as he spots even a speck of these criminal tendencies in a suspect, he immediately convicts them to be the killer. To balance out Detective Park, who believes in his intuitional ability to recognize the killer, we have Detective Saw, who believes in nothing but the facts.
반장님, 이게 의원 측은 너무 정확한데요. 이 소리 보세요. 소리는 절대 거짓말 안 하거든요.
To Detective Park's contrast, Detective So is an investigator with a degree. He's young, quiet, intelligent, and also conventionally quite cool, often looking very mysterious while being crouched in the background smoking a cigarette. He's the conventional, no nonsense, need no help detective most of the audience is familiar with. Even though these two may seem to be following a common archetype, these are well written characters. Bong meticulously crafts each of their character arcs. Detective Park goes from being overly confident about his ingenious intuitional eyes to someone who finally understands the repercussions of his actions. He realizes that he cannot always will a suspect to be the real killer. Similarly, Detective So faces a possibility that he might not always find an evidence to incriminate someone. No matter how much he tries to do stuff on his own, he will ultimately need assistance, whether it is from his peers or from the investigatory system itself. If the system itself is flawed and incompetent, there's only so much he can do. One of the major, if not the only criticism Memories of Murder received was about his inconclusive end. This intentional decision of not giving the identity of the real killer much importance gave Bong a chance to highlight the main antagonist of the movie.
Actually, at that time, yeah, my conclusion was it's not because of some detectives are so foolish or more, not because of the killer is such a genius. I think that the conclusion was but because it was 1980s. The limit and the darkness of the era, the age itself is the reason of we failed.
South Korea during the 80s was under a military dictatorship. It was a time when human rights were under violation and citizens' mistrust and dissatisfaction with the government was at its peak. Detective Park, in many ways, represented the state of the society in those days. Police then were known for violently capturing and torturing innocent people, misusing authority to exert violence and abuse. Where Detective Park and his partner Inspector Joe represented the incompetent Korean government who resorted to violence and abuse to maintain control, Detective So represented the able younger generations, who were just trying to make sense of it all with the very little means that they had at their disposal. The film, in a way, portrayed the national trauma that an entire generation went through during the 80s. What good is a great story with terrible execution? The technical aspects of filmmaking, although subtle, can completely make or break the narrative of a story. Bong Joon-ho is a director who is in complete control of his craft. His ability to use these technical tools not as an added benefit but to essentially shape the narrative of the story is just brilliant. Perhaps one of the most obvious and important aspects of storytelling is the performance of the actors. It wouldn't be a stretch to say that Song Kang-ho is perhaps one of the best actors we have even today. His ability to completely immerse himself in every character is just truly remarkable. Apart from him, Kim Sang-kyun, Kim Roy-ha, Park No-sik, and Park Hae-il do complete justice to their characters and don't let the narrative drag even a bit. Fun fact, one of the Detective Park's famous climatic lines
밥은 먹고 다니냐?
was completely improvised by the actor on the set. The music of Memories by Taro Hibashiro can be best described as minimalistic but effective. The music gives the movie the necessary melancholic and murky feel. The simple yet hauntingly beautiful piano melody of the title OST Memories of Night gives a sense of mystery and nostalgia, as if longing for the lost memories of a time that has gone by. Editors are essentially the last screenwriters of a movie, therefore, in a way, dependent on the initial screenwriters. As the director and also the screenwriter, Bong Joon-ho has an incredible sense of mise en scène. Every frame, besides being cinematically beautiful, is staged in such a way that it gives off much more information than it seems on the surface. There's already a great video on YouTube that explains Bong's exceptional use of ensemble staging to further the narrative of the movie. Another aspect that Bong had perfected was writing scene bridges. Throughout the movies, scenes flow from one to another very organically.
깔끔하죠. 빽대가리요. 그거 조사하고 짤라고 그래. 길 가던 남자들 바지 합시 다 벗기 볼래.
차라리 여기 한번 변소에 가보세요.
엄마, 넌 내가 그렇게 한가해 보이냐?
Also, seeds for major future plot points were sown right from the start.
아이, 사람이 손짓을 하면 왜 귓구멍이 뭐 씨발 뭐 가? 진짜! 뭐 지가 어디 뭐 나 피지가 임마! 가! 어이! 가! 야!
This is a mark of an accomplished screenwriter. Along with Bong Joon-ho, DOP Kim Yong-gyu uses camera not only as a motion capture device but to enhance the narrative of the story. To be honest, Memories of Murder has so many scenes that can be considered as cinematic gold. Everyone is familiar with the haunting end scene where Song Kang-ho stares directly into the camera as if trying to look for the killer in the audience. beautifully shot climatic rail tunnel scene, where in the end, the suspect disappears into the darkness, as if taking the truth along with him. But what I want to talk about the most is the opening sequence of the movie, which establishes the main theme. The screen fades in, and we see a young boy crouched in the field examining a lone cricket before snatching it. Soon we hear a tractor coming from a distance, and the boy gets up to look at it. We see a bunch of kids playing beside a broken car, and hear a nostalgic yet melancholic melody in the background. It is in contrast to the bright sunlit fields that we see, as if foreshadowing a grim future. We get a shot of the young boy carrying a jar full of these crickets as Detective Park approaches him. Detective Park enters the ditch and the music stops. He crouches down to look under the ditch and finds a naked, dead, and a decaying body of a woman. When the mutilated body comes into focus, we see that there's a cricket on it. Trying not to subject the kid to such a gruesome scene, Detective Park tries to shoo away the kid. The boy refuses to leave and instead ends up mimicking him.
엄마! 엄마! 뭐 제자리다. 제자리다. 야야야, 거기다 놔. 거기다 놔. 놓고 가. 엄마!
엄마!
너 중요한 거니까 손 내면 안 돼.
이거 중요한 거니까 손 대면 안 돼.
The scene ends with Detective Park looking at the corpse and then at the boy. He tilts his head and squints his eyes. Then the boy does the same. Detective Park is puzzled at how unaffected the kid is around a dead body, as if this isn't anything out of the ordinary. The nostalgic melody comes back in again, and we get a wide shot of a perfect postcard image like field with the title of the movie. Just in this roughly 3-minute sequence, Wong explains what the movie is about. He transports us back to this particular tragic time and place in history where innocence of a lot of children was lost, where oppression and trauma had made people apathetic towards violence and death, how emasculation led some men to reconstruct their masculinity by oppressing women, how being unable to deal with their trauma made a few men capture, rape, and even kill women. While society couldn't do much but watch. This is exactly what sets Memories of Murder apart from other movies. It is a movie with deep story and flawless execution, but what makes it great is how Bong was able to tap into this feeling of helplessness that an entire generation felt during the 80s. The movie exists as a remembrance and as a representation of Korea's regrettable history. It serves as a reminder that even though the country as a whole has moved on from its tragic past, memories still remain.